Explain this helmet to me. So how much did it cost in Australia, in dollary dues?
Have you tried to put it on?
$312 all up.
God.
I'm sure it'll appreciate in value over time. Surely.
Well, it's going to be the last race helmet he's ever going to
It's got
play.
straps in it. You
When we get Danny Rick on this podcast, we're like, mate, you owe me a beer for that.
To say the least. Yeah. All right.
It'd work if your head was tiny. Yeah, that's cool.
So what are you going to do with it?
cool.
What are you going to do with it?
Put it on a shelf.
No, I've got it in front of all my other cool things. The only cool shit I own is I have what are those little stupid dolls with like big heads? Those character things.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Vinyl pop.
Yeah, something
I've
like
got
that.
two Lemmy Kilmister ones, and they're in front of me TV because Lemmy's a god.
So they're
Did
the
not
only
expect
two
you
cool
to
things
have
you own?
Those. Did
Well,
not
I only
expect
bought
you
them
to have
because
that.
I was like, Lemmy's rad.
That's hilarious.
Lemmy's cool, isn't he, Zeke?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's even got his mole on one of them. It's all. Rest in peace, good sir.
He's not listening to this podcast.
Where did you have to go to buy that, might I ask?
JB.
It was JB. You didn't have to venture into like a game store or an EB or something.
Oh, that would have been
Please,
fun.
come on, mate,
You
I'm
in
not-
there would be funny.
Yeah, it's about as good as pop culture I get, I think.
Yeah.
Pop culture.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're spot on. I can't even poke fun at you. I don't know.
It's so unusual.
Drawing a blank. I can't pick on you.
So
Sorry,
unusual.
mate.
Should watch that documentary on YouTube. It's awesome.
Which one?
The one on Lemmy.
I love that you say you should watch that one like we were talking about that with context.
Great documentary.
Very good. So you're recording so what were you talking about on your episode when you pressed pause and then came here?
Oh, we were just banging on about the balls and then finished that up, but we went a little overtime and then it's like, oh shit, I gotta hit the road. But all good. I forgot what happened in the race this morning.
Everyone did except for the last 3 laps.
Didn't miss much.
No, yeah.
How are the Bulls going this year? What are they?
A bit mid, mate. They're a bit mid.
What are they, 2 and 3 at the moment?
3 and 4, I think.
Okay.
3 and 4.
Better than the Lakers.
Yeah, that ain't hard.
Well, I was literally watching that on the train here, and they are about to get their first win, it looks like.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
To the Nuggets, which is odd.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
We're following
They
the
could
scores
still
today.
shit the bed. There's 3 minutes to go.
I reckon Simmons will be solid by mid-year.
You are wrong.
Is that the take? Yeah, I'm hopeful.
Yeah, so am I.
Yeah, hopefully, but
Nah.
I don't know, mate. Hopefully, but I don't know if that's going to be the
No.
case.
Do you watch much basketball?
Yeah.
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 In this century or in the previous one?
Just 90s. Just
Exactly.
Just
the previous
90s.
one is exclusively Michael Jordan.
game was way better back then.
Was it? What's happened to it now?
Soft.
Oh,
If that's the case, like, shouldn't you be like just rewatching Formula One from like 1990s, like reruns,
Back
and
with
not be
V10s.
interested in the
That's
sport?
what I
back in
do
the
on
day?
F1 TV.
It's the only thing you can do on F1 TV here.
I was gutted. They charged me again.
Oh,
I
no.
was like, no.
You forgot to cancel your subscription.
Yeah.
Well, the good news is at least it's happening next year within KO. You can actually access F1 TV and you can boot.
It's like an add-on, right? Or something?
No, it's all part of it. Like, you don't have to pay anything extra. It just will exist.
God.
And it means you can choose between Buxton or Crofty for your commentary
Jesus.
needs.
At least something different. Like, if
Yeah.
you're having a woeful Crofty day, at least you can flick the switch
It's true.
and see if it's better. It might not be, but
I was
Not
about
always
to say.
Buxton as well, to be fair. Sometimes, like,
yeah.
Minnie Brundle gets on there as well. Alex Brundle.
Well, like, I really like NBA stuff. You can go through and there's 1,000 feeds you can pick from. You can
Yeah.
pick like the home team, the away team, all the different languages. They have
Spanish language, yeah.
they have heaps of different stuff all for the same feed. It's really, I don't know, interesting that you can just switch it up. So if you want to have some home team bias, aka Sky F1, you can listen to that.
I was kind of hopeful it'd be its own thing though, because I kind of wanted to punt KO given how much they charge.
Oh,
true.
it's
But
ridiculous.
now I kind of have to keep it, I guess. So
Well, because you'd have League Pass, right?
yeah, I got League Pass,
Yeah.
but like I got KO pretty much exclusively for F1.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you don't watch NBA on it because it's useless.
But no one's watching
Exactly.
Supercars on it either.
No.
Apart from one person in our Discord.
I hear.
And me.
I watched Bathurst on it, to be
I
honest.
actually watched the Gold Coast race until they all piled into each other. I was like, that's good. Okay, that's enough of that for the year.
Do I get access to it with Foxtel as well? Or is it just
You're the only
KO?
person still in Australia with Foxtel, my guy.
Oh, I've got it for Deadliest Catch. I fucking love those things.
What?
I love commercial fishing TV shows.
That is the most you thing I've ever heard.
And I love those, like, American Pickers shows as well.
Oh,
They're
you would
so
too.
good.
You do know you can get binge and just watch that stuff.
I was just
No,
going
he
to
does
say,
not.
isn't that on like 7 Mate or something like
Yeah.
that?
It's old episodes, Mark. He wants the brand new stuff.
What's
He
your-
needs to know which
What's
which
Foxtel running
fishing
these
boat
days?
is
Like
ahead.
$80 a month or something?
No, it's not too bad. I think it's about 45 or something.
Oh,
So I got the sports package with like Discovery Channel.
I don't think I've ever, like, I can
$50.
understand someone like getting Fox for the movies or the music or the sport, but
yeah.
Deadliest
Deadliest
Catch,
Catch is
I've never
unique.
heard a human say that before.
A human.
Usually 'cause it's just
Plenty
on
of
YouTube.
squids.
Mate,
No
I
humans.
just love commercial fishing shows. I don't know why.
All right. Well, look, the
fair
good
enough.
news is this episode is not sponsored by Deadliest Catch or anything to do with the Discovery Channel. But if you work for the Discovery Channel and you want an Australian person, you're probably the only person in this country that watches it exclusively. Here he is.
No, mate, it's good.
Oh, that's me.
Unbelievable.
Mate.
Right, okay. Well, look, I guess we're here to talk about Formula One. In the room, you may have noticed we have a good friend. We've got a shit friend sitting in the corner behind the cameras.
Whack.
Exclusively basketball content down this end of the room. We have Tommy T here, of course. Mark K is joining us, who is an absolute legend in the basketball podcasting space. And Zeke is wearing his... what hat have you got on, Ezekiel? Without a microphone, just shout it.
It's not basketball.
PSG.
Great.
Nice.
Doesn't
Good
have
job,
the
man,
Jordan
there.
logo, though.
It's got the Air Jordan in there.
That's my point.
Yeah. It's not a basketball team, though.
No, what? Paris is not a basketball team. Thank you so much. Could be. Anyway, Mexican Grand Prix. Hooray. That's very exciting. Thomas J. Camp, you are joining us as well. What was did you watch it live?
I did. I watched it live. Yeah, I fell asleep once, so I missed the first.
I'm sorry, it's 7 o'clock. Were you usually
What's
supposed to
going
be
on?
at work while you were asleep?
Well, look, I sleep terribly as it is, so I watched it in bed, and if I do anything in bed, I just fall asleep.
Fair point.
So I should have got up, but I watched it on the laptop, but fell asleep once, so I missed about 6 laps between about lap 8 and 14, so I
that
missed
was crucial.
absolutely nothing.
Absolutely critical laps, you fool.
Yeah, what a snore fest it was. It was a bit of a shame, except for the last 25 laps. That was great.
It was great. Let's talk a little bit about the news stuff before we get into it. I'm already bored with the thought process before I even left my mouth. Cost cap, let's very briefly talk about it.
Ugh.
$7 million dues. I imagine it's US dollars. It was talked about all like pounds. This is how much they have spent, and then it's like $7 million. Hang on.
You wouldn't want to convert it at this rate. It's useless right now.
Well, if it's in Australian, if it's in New Zealand dollars,
That's
it's about
key,
6
key
euros.
information. Which currency are we paying in? Pesos, please.
Mark, you haven't said anything about this yet because you haven't been on the podcast. What do
No.
you think? Do you think the punishment fits the crime?
Who the hell knows, to be honest with you? Like, I mean, the $7 million fine, I was going to say pound fine, but it might be AUD, maybe USD. That's probably nothing to Red Bull. It's probably just like, what are the implications of the aero stuff? But I guess we can't answer that until we know next season, if it'll have any implication at all, because they're dominating by a million miles at this point. So I have no idea, to be honest with you. I don't know if we will have a good idea until we get to next season.
Yeah.
It seems like the aero stuff's not going to come to fruition until 2 years from now anyway, because they're already going to be at deficit because of winning the championship. They're plus this percentage, but they've already started doing a lot of aero for next season already, so it's going to be a follow-on for the following season. It's just F1 doesn't work in these calendar years very nicely. It's always rolling constantly into development for the future years.
So talk to me. It was a $7 million fine, right?
Yeah, which
And-
exists outside the budget cap. So the business of Red Bull has to pay within 30 days. Yeah, it's a
Jeez.
huge amount of money for them. $7 million to the FIA directly. So
It's nothing.
I imagine Ben's
Change.
got, buying himself a Ferrari with that.
And it was a $1.7 million overspend.
It
They
was.
said percentage-wise, I think they said, 0.03 something.
Which is what was in the 5% allowance that the teams talked about and decided on previously anyway. So they're getting fined for something that they didn't really do wrong.
Sounds like a miscategorization. They categorised it as something else.
Well, I understand
and
there was spare parts that they had on the shelf that was included in stock, which was made previously, which then there was a directive passed in October or November of last year, which then that's what caused them. There was a reallocation of those funds and what they're actually worth, which caused them to be.
Because if I had spare parts, I'd say they're
$1
for all of this.
So look,
It cost me $1.
it's just all made up bullshit, isn't it? So
Yeah, no, zero surprises there. Already bought about it. And I think Aston Martin got like a $400,000 fine. great for procedural stuff. Let's talk about some exciting stuff. Jack Doohan in an Alpine FP1. He did about 4 laps before it blew up, and then Fernando did about all of the race before his blew up. It's pretty disappointing, but
I was
going to say it's good news.
I was shocked how off the pace all of the FP1 drivers that got drives in there were. They were all 3 to 4 seconds off the pace. Jack may have done better if his car didn't blow up, but still on the time sheets doesn't look real good.
Also, very interestingly, so we spoke last week about Logan Sargent getting towards needing a couple more super license points. From what I understand, he didn't actually complete 100 kilometres of...
Loser.
So he doesn't get a point for his FP1 outing. I think he did...
He had one job, mate.
97 kilometres
Literally.
out of 100 before the flag went.
2 more laps, mate. Just to
I
be
feel like
sure.
it's probably not his fault specifically. I feel like that's Williams...
But that is so
stuffing
dumb.
it up.
That is so dumb to stuff up when that point is so crucial for him being able to get a drive, and they've already said they don't have a second option.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
just more pressure. It's like unnecessary
Yeah.
pressure for
Well,
him.
I was just gonna why announce it? Like, I get you were in the American GP
Yeah.
last week, so maybe that's why they wanted to announce it last week. But if it's so conditional about his results, like, why announce it now?
Are they just trying to lean on the powers that be, maybe? And
Well, there's no backup
the
plan.
scale.
And then they got asked again. They were like, what's your backup plan? We don't have one.
he's just going to win.
That's it.
Well,
I'm just going to imagine it's going to happen, and then it's going to happen.
what we also know is that the FIA and F1 has been really stringent on super license points.
Indeed.
Look at McLaren and them trying to get Colton Herter and Palau in and stuff. Like, they were really aggressive about the way they went about it. So they're going to have to hold the same line for Sargent, even though he's got a contract and he's signed. So, hopefully he gets it. So
But who knows?
we-
Jack Doohan might end up in a Williams seat. If he gets a super
Legit.
license points and he doesn't, then Jack might have a free year in a Williams. Also, can I just point out, I bloody love that Mick Doohan is like, I do not care about my motorcycle riding. I am Jack Doohan's dad. Put
best.
it on the bottom of my thing.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's like Mick Doohan, Jack Doohan's dad, every time it comes up in interviews. How good is that?
The best.
He's
He doesn't
completely he's there for Jack. He's not there for himself.
Because it could so easily slip into like, oh, tell us about this, then you're forgetting about the son, which is what we complained a lot about with Mick, and everyone just wanted to talk about your dad's so good, and would you think your dad would be proud, and all this kind of stuff. He's like, I'm here racing, I just want to talk about that. Can we not talk about everything else? Just the distraction. So good from Mick straight up. It's like, no, I'm just here. That's my son. I'm a proud dad just walking around, and he's probably feeling a bit carefree now because he's used to being in paddocks, suited up, high pressure kind of stuff. Now he gets to watch.
Yeah. We just get good dad content. Sergio's dad.
Yeah.
Max's dad, who left him at a petrol station that no one's forgiven
I was
him
gonna
for. Thanks, Yost. And now Mick just smiling. I would imagine, though, that earlier on in Jack's life, there would have been a hell of a lot of pressure in the Doohan household because, high-performing athletes, not perceived or otherwise, they actually put on. But Michael Italiano has been training with Jack as well, and not one-on-one, although if Jack ends up in the paddock next year, it'll be one-on-one. So Italiano will still be in Formula One, even if Danny Rick is not, which will be interesting. But
Do we need to add a name to our T-shirt, Jim?
yeah, we do. Well, I mean, maybe we could just put
Italiano.
just 2 up here and Jack squared.
Michael.
We're going to go back to the top again, and it just
Jack.
constantly does that. We'll get a marker out actually later and put a 2 above it. But thank you. It's a good merch. Shout out to people who have bought this, which is not you. Bought your own merch or been given your own merch.
No.
No.
I've got a cup.
I've got
You got a cup.
got an
Where's
Oz-
my cup,
I've
by
got
the
an-
way?
I did
Oh.
give it to you once.
I've got an Oz
I don't know
F1
what you did
cup.
with it. No, you
It
got a
was
Lakeside.
Lakeside Drive.
Oh, is
yeah,
it?
because he got it made before we changed the name without telling you.
Yeah. Yeah, I launched into it.
Yeah.
This is how we've changed the name of the podcast. Did it soften the blow?
Look, I didn't really care anyway.
What did you think of our name change between Oz F1 to Lakeside Drive?
To be honest with you, now that you're mentioning it, I completely forgot about Oz F1 being a
Great,
thing.
we'll edit that out. Done.
No, but
Cut that out.
Seamless.
do you have any old Oz F1 merch lying around?
Still
Yeah,
do,
we've
yeah.
got some hoodies, I think.
Oh, yeah, there you
Yeah.
In fact, our opening credits, which we still haven't updated, which we need to update on YouTube,
Yeah.
because it's
Still
only just the
says-
3 of us and not Freya, and Freya is a massive part of this show now. Who? Exclusively, if you're in Australia, you get to be in the credits. And
Yeah, that's
we're,
kind of
we're all
on a-
wearing Oz F1 merch, not Lakeside Drive merch. Anyway, so we'll
true.
update that at some point between now and the new regulations in 2026. One more thing about merch before we go into Discord comment of the week. Sebastian Vettel's tribute helmet to Didi. Bloody awesome, Mark. What did you think? Throwing it right back, and Aston let him do it.
Yeah, it was good of him to actually let him do it. I suppose, like, they probably wouldn't say no in this instance. But yeah, it was nice seeing Seb. It's funny that we've come to this point with Seb. Like, I probably would have hated Seb when he was last wearing this helmet. But now Seb wearing this helmet, like a couple more races to go, I was like, yeah, wear that helmet. I kind of want him to finish with the season with that helmet.
Agreed.
Just do it the whole year.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
Yeah, no, I agree. The transformation of Seb is unreal from all of us in this room definitely not liking that person when he was in a Red Bull, dominating Webber, and then Daniel eventually coming into that seat as well. He was the bad guy in that team where our guys were, and now full circle, he's like one of our favourites.
Wouldn't go with favourite, but I hated.
Loves it back.
I've said it before, but I hated Germany in that stage.
The whole of Germany.
All of Germany.
Could not care if I'm out German. I was like, "Fuck you."
So aggressive for no reason.
It's like identical laugh, which is great.
And now it's time for the Discord comment of the week.
It's your time to shine, Ezekiel. Every time, we love it. Discord comment of the week goes to LBS for this time. KD17 said, strategists trying to talk them into hards, probably about McLaren talking with Daniel. And LBS says, lol, quizzing the drivers. Daniel, if you had a set of mediums and had to another 45 laps with tyre deg of 5% a lap, how much deg would the second race have when you finish the race? The second set have when you finish the race. Remember to show your work for full marks. Absolutely outstanding content. So quizzing the driver, there was this in the McLaren app. If you've got it, it's sort of like there's this fifth driver, which is admin, basically trying to explain some context as to the radio calls.
Right.
And generally, it's about how can we stuff up Daniel's race. Fair play to McLaren. This time they actually did it well, but they're quizzing the drivers was my favourite part of what that was all about. 2765, in case anyone wants to know his passcode. You've actually got the notes up on your phone.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It was never the issue. It was always the computer that was the issue.
Your iPad. It's a shame. Tommy T, before many people in the Discord questioned whether or not you actually watched any of the broadcast because there were some brilliant moments. Did you watch any of the broadcast pre the race?
Nope.
Good. Moving on.
I did watch probably 15 minutes before, and I saw the grid walk with Brundle.
Yes.
Useless. That is just useless content. I don't enjoy it. I get anxious watching him trying to get through traffic, annoying people. People are like, who the hell is this guy? He's poor cameraman, like running through stuff. I just don't think it's valuable. It's the same in the football when they do it with roaming Brian or whatever the hell that is. It's just you're getting a microphone thrown into people's faces. You don't really care. I prefer like the more like we flip between people once they've caught someone. I think is more interesting and engaging. Not just this chasing through people. He's like who was he trying to talk to? Was it Gasly or someone? And then he's like, Mick. And then Mick was like, I gotta go. He's like, you got 30 seconds. He's like, piss off. I gotta go. Otherwise I get fined for not being here for the anthem. I think it's just a weird use of time, but what else do you do? I guess you just rehash the points that you've been going over. So I guess it's interesting.
I like it. It's good.
I get anxious.
You don't get anxiety over it?
Nah.
I'm with you. I actually start to get anxiety for the quality product. Yeah.
I'm like, this is not slick in any way. Yeah.
Well, going back to the US GP, did you see how Brad Pitt ghosted Brundle? I'd like to watch a video of it, which means that movie he's making's already failed. The internet already hates.
Did you not
Brad
listen
Pitt.
to Freya's podcast?
I did actually, but all they did was talk about me for the first 20 minutes, so I turned it off. I was like, surely you got something better to talk about.
No. Take that as a compliment. Brad Pitt actually did apparently send a note to Brundle saying, sorry for ghosting you or whatever, which...
He has to try and get some public face back, doesn't he?
Did you watch any of the broadcast, Mark?
Nah, the way I determine the way I watch it, like particularly like race day, is like after qualifying they always preview what's coming up on the show the next day. Like I don't really need to see Lewis and Mandela. I don't need to see Brundle in that old ass car.
Like staged pieces that are pre-shot and stuff. Yeah.
So I generally tune in maybe 10, 15 minutes before. But even today I was like, no, I'm not doing that. Let's just wake up as soon as the race is ready to go.
I prefer to watch after. I watch after qualifying, watch after the race, usually for those like post-race kind of things.
Yeah, I think we get relevant content then, like
something to comment on.
Daniel Rick on the Sky Sports stage, and that helped a lot. He hasn't been up there all year. So that's interesting in its first said. But I really like Danica. She challenged PDR a lot.
Yeah.
And I was here for that because she'd be like, I actually don't agree with that, Paul. And he'd be like, well, and it's like, shut up, Paul
Suck
di
it.
Resta. She'd be faster than you in a Formula One car anyway.
Please.
Yep. Please.
Payday was good.
No,
go down this rabbit hole.
when was he good?
He was good.
When was he good? When is he good and Gasly is shit? Please, in
When
what
PDR got
universe?
called back in years later for
Gasly got spanked this weekend by his teammate.
What, when by finishing 11th and his teammate getting DNF'd?
It was about 12
Getting
seconds.
Ricciardo'd.
That was Yuki's fault, but Yuki was in front of him by about 12 seconds at that point.
Well, let's find out some more.
I do have one note.
Oh, my.
My only note was
God.
the lack of flyover, but we did have some kind of, I don't know what you'd call it, like a kite, kind of mechanical kite thing, bird
saw that.
floating over. It's like, oh, we got a, I think it was a human in there, maybe.
Really?
But
Was
there
it
was
supposed
no
to be there, or
flyover.
was it just
I have no idea. It looked like
separate?
it looked like that Birdman event they do on the Yarrow, where you got to try and run and jump as far as you can. And
Someone succeeded so well, they're actually flying over Mexico currently
so it was
from
this
the last
kite
one.
flying over the grid, and I was like, it's pretty tacky. And then only one side of the grid had fireworks, not both. It's kind of lame.
well-
We've just been to Coda, which the whole thing was fireworks,
Oh,
basically.
Yeah.
Got to step it up, Mexico.
America.
Give me your score.
Also-
Give me a Tommy T score out of 10.
I did like the Mexican version of the theme.
It has to,
That was
yes, outstanding
That was
content. We're
really
gonna finish
good.
with that. The
I
best.
think the only place we do it is Mexico. I really don't want to hear a German version or...
You don't want Umpa F1?
I mean, it's the same thing, right?
Or there's no German race, so and there's no German race ever again.
What would the Australian
Hang
version
on,
be?
Sorry, it's the same thing as a mariachi band.
No,
Umpa
as in
music.
like the original, you
How dare
don't.
you. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, dickhead.
What would the Australian version be? Ezekiel Fenn, a chief musician here.
Of the F1 theme.
Angus Young on an SG, just doing his thing.
Yeah.
The terrible AC/DC riff.
How dare you talk about the darkness like that?
How good was the crowd, quickly?
Yeah.
Oh, outstanding.
Excellent.
Well, they were
Outstanding
standing,
crowd.
actually, up and down. That's so
Yeah.
many squats if
I
you're
reckon-
a
I reckon
Mexican
they're better
fan.
than the Dutchies.
Oh, easily.
Whoa.
Yep,
Yeah.
easily.
Going there.
Yeah.
They
Because they
were-
don't have to rely on
There's a
throwing
few-
at flares at people to have a good time.
There's actually a few Dutchies.
That's just
in
like
the
a
crowd
commitment
too.
from my end. Like, throw flares and wear orange. Be committed. If you're going to do something, do it properly, Mexico.
Love that.
Oh, very good.
No, I think
It's Campy's beer.
I liked Danica. I thought she was excellent. And all the quirky Mexican stuff was actually tasteful. I feel like a lot of the time that can go way over when we're just talking about tacos and bullshit.
Day of the Dead.
Do you know what I
all
mean?
that
Like,
sort of
it's just
stuff.
tacky.
Yeah.
It's usually tacky, and that's just Sky's like lack of culture, I'm guessing.
So what's
Lack
your
of
Tommy T
diversity.
score out of 10?
Considering all that, I think 7.
I love that you say considering all that. Like, you process all of the data through your matrix of how
And
the
if you
scores
watch,
are ranked. Like,
my
I don't
lowest
know.
scores are probably like a 4, and my max is like a 7. So we're really operating in a band of about 3 or 4 points. Anyway,
Not bad for a dude that watched 15 minutes of it.
I watched the whole race. I
Just
just
about
tuned
got
into
15 minutes
this-
of content out of that. So.
That's actually the longest
Yep.
broadcast review you've done.
It
And I
is.
even moved on to a different segment and you
Yeah.
kept going.
Because you didn't let me make a point. We were talking about something irrelevant.
He's hijacked it. He's taken over.
Let me press
I
again.
reckon I'm doing well. I'm having a good pod. I don't know about you guys, but I'm good. I'm on here.
You're on. Keep going. I like it. Who's in the bin, Tommy?
James has lost it.
Yuki Tsunoda, he's firmly in the bin. Whatever happened to leaving the car's width? We can see where the impact was.
Seinfeld setup.
We can see where the impact was. He was firmly in the right position to make that corner. Yuki, rookie. Rookie from him.
All the time,
Should've
you
left
must
some-
leave a space.
If you left a car with space, I don't think he was aware of Danny Brick putting it up there. But the way he cut him off, disgusting.
I will-
Shouldn't have even been a 5-second penalty.
Yeah.
I know Danny Rick said, yeah, maybe 5, but you're an idiot, mate. we are biased as it gets here. That was 1,000% Yuki's fault.
So watching it in the lead up, because I actually showed the coverage. This is one thing that Sky actually did really well. We saw that battle from the straight, coming down the straight.
And we got the overhead shot.
And what we were seeing was every time Daniel was getting forced off. Like Yuki was pushing him right to the edges and he was having to pull out of moves. He wasn't letting him stay alongside. So by the time they got to that corner, I was like, I'd bloody be alongside you too and forcing you back off. Yeah. I was just as frustrated as Daniel would have been because Yuki was not giving him space to operate around the edges. So he found a spot to get inside. He was like, well, you can get stuffed. You just did the same thing to me for the last 5 corners. So I understand the frustration that Daniel was driving with maybe, which led him to stick it in that spot, maybe where he wasn't quite alongside. But I could understand because watching it, I was like, he's not giving him room. He's kind of right on the fringes of like not leaving enough gap. And then he wonders why Daniel makes a move like he did.
Yeah. How did you see it, Mark?
Well, I mean, not to go completely against the grain here on the very pro DR podcast, but I thought it was completely his fault, whether it was 10 seconds, 5 seconds, whatever. But like, maybe it was just one of those things where he just hasn't been in a good racing position for so long that he just felt that urgency that I have to get past him now.
Yeah.
Because I'm on the softs here. I can make up some good track position. So maybe that was the issue here, the fact that he's been so out of it that he forced the need to do something about it. But I don't know. He didn't need to make the pass then.
No.
He could have probably done it.
And I will say, I do think it was Daniel's fault.
Yeah,
I agree.
I don't.
No, it was DR's fault, but
I understand the frustration.
He wasn't actually, and he said this on the Sky in the Sky chat afterwards. He actually wasn't overtaking at that point. He just was putting his car there to go, hey Yuki, to force him a little bit wide so he could get some traction out of the corner.
And I asked the question: anyone else in Yuki's car, would they have noticed? Would they have given space? Would
if
they
it was
have
Seb
allowed
Vettel,
the car?
yes.
Look at the Seb and Joe battle that happened.
Exactly.
Like, plenty of
K-Mag.
room left. Are you not listening to me, guys? This is Yuki's in the bin for what happened. This is my segment. All right.
All right, fair enough. Podcast penalties. Mark, have you got any podcast penalties for any of us or Freya from the last couple of episodes?
Well, I was expecting you to put Gasly in the bin, and even like you put Yuki in the bin. I thought you were going to blame Gasly for maybe not mentoring Yuki enough for that situation.
It's probably his fault somehow.
Gasly's done.
Yeah,
He's still in the bin, right?
Cemented.
I just wanted to use that sound effect.
Okay.
That's a throwback.
Yeah, it's on the full one, which is this.
Jeez.
That's
Yeah, I've got a
hard
podcast
work.
penalty. You and Freya for talking about me for 20 minutes here episode. It was no good. Get better content.
It was mostly giving you penalties
Yeah.
and saying you were wrong.
Yeah, but I'm giving them penalties because
Fair enough. I know. So there's no penalty. So there's
This
penalties.
is the human centipede of podcasts. It's giving each other penalties. Just endlessly podcast and podcast.
The last episode of the year is just going to be the podcast episode. It's going to be 2.5 hours of silence. There's not going to be anything else, and just occasionally there'll be like just random
Everyone's
SFX.
scared to get penalised by the next
No,
podcast.
because it's just that we have to serve it all. But we have to.
put that on a
I
t-shirt.
told you, I'm on.
We have descended. We have descended so hard. Oh, okay, great. Well,
That's not like you to be broken.
you are on.
I'm on. Told you.
It's Mark. You're the magic sauce.
Welcome to
his. Welcome back.
taken 4 years. Finally showed up.
This probably not the best segue, but I'm going here anyway. Good news, everybody, to do a few full Futuramica's exclusively.
It's your only pop culture.
It's the only pop culture reference that I have. NordVPN is back sponsoring this podcast, which is very, very good. Look, here's the deal. You can get 2 years and 4 months free. I know you've taken up the offer. I've taken up the offer, which is very good. And we do this because we actually use it. Campy, why do you think having a VPN is a good thing?
Well, you get to hide all of your content and your metadata and your search history from dickheads like Tim Cook at Apple and all that who sell it on the black market and whatever Google's doing over there, building some dodgy AI system. I don't like it, so I need my VPN to hide absolutely everything from them. And you get access to good commercial fisherman TV shows if I was to illegally download them too. So love NordVPN.
Who's your favourite in that space?
Quality pocket. I'll see Hanson, that guy.
Excellent.
No time to think about that answer at all. What's his boat called?
The Northwestern.
Northwestern. To be fair, I remember watching a bit of Deadliest Catch back in the day, some OG like Series 1 stuff. What series are they up to now? It's like The Walking Dead. There's like 400 series of it.
Last season of Walking
18.
Dead.
Oh, I mean, that's good. That should have been the case probably 6 or 7 years ago.
That's
Are you still watching it?
I'm too far in now. I've got to finish it.
Are you really?
It's like when Lost got that far. I was never a Lost person, but people were like, it sucks, but I got to finish
That's
it, right?
true, actually. I was like that too.
Yeah. You know exactly what I mean.
Whoa.
Same
And
energy.
it sucked.
I gave up after 2 episodes.
Oh, Mark is not happy with that.
I'm a Lost fan. I'm an OG Lost fan. Like that's. I might have to hand out some penalty points now. I wasn't going to before, but now you've gone there.
It just took so long because they wrote and they were like, oh, this is never going to go anywhere. And it got successful. Like, oh. And then the writers had to write some content. It took them so long to then film and then release. Like 2 years between like season 2 and season 3. It's too much of a gap.
But the good thing about NordVPN is you can then go find out where it's streaming. Change your
you can binge
location.
the whole thing.
You can say that you're in South Africa or the United States and find out if it's on a streaming service, and you can just go watch it instead of having to wait for it to be on one of the ones in Australia.
Yep, love it. If you want to watch Deadliest Catch, the whole thing, I have no idea where it is. Go and find it, but you can get nordvpn.com/Lakeside Drive. The link is in the description below. Get a special deal that is just on that link. All right, lads, let us go through a team-by-team analysis. Mark K, let's start with the very back of the pack. Haas this weekend. Mick Schumacher in 16th, Kevin Magnussen in 17th. Now, Mick is driving for his seat for next year. Didn't really see much of him this weekend, though, did we?
I was going to say that this was the interesting aspect of the broadcast, and we'll touch on it obviously later when we're talking about other teams. But like, we weren't focusing on the front, but we were focusing very much on the mid pack, and Haas were nowhere near that at all. So what happened to these guys? Who the hell knows? Because one, we didn't see them on the broadcast, but more generally, coming back to Mick, like. No, I think he's kind of done, guys. Yeah. I don't think there's much foreseeable future for this dude here, unfortunately, because these are the sorts of races he needs to put in a performance.
Yeah.
Like, okay, maybe a little bit better than K-Mag today, or on par, but realistically, he needed to be better than where he was. But it is what it is, I guess.
Is there a Subaru that's just started outside?
Sounds like it, yeah.
Great.
Subaru warm-up.
Maybe that's Mick out the back.
No, I think you're spot on. Like, yeah, they were nowhere. Considering they actually seemed to have pace last week leading up, I think, is this just an altitude thing that's just kicked their car?
Well, it's a Ferrari motor, I'd suggest. Although Bottas is the exception to the rule. Bottas, made it work. So, it's not good for Mick. I mean, Gunther's been pretty publicly scathing about him, saying he's too expensive, he costs too much because he crashes the car. And he even sat out one of the races.
To be fair, it wasn't Gunther, it's Gene Haas who's been saying that.
Yeah, I mean, but he sat out a race earlier in the year too, didn't he, to save the car?
Yeah.
It was one of the new...
Before Australia, wasn't it?
Jeddah.
Yeah, after that.
Yeah, so...
Cool, because he punted it into the wall, didn't he, qualifying?
Yeah, three cars in 2 races.
Anyway, so, look, there's some issues there, but I think he's done enough.
Who else do they get? Hulk is legitimate. Is a legitimate option right now.
It's easier to keep Mick Schumacher in the sport than get rid of him. He's a name. His dad was a god. Someone's got to throw him a bone because he's done enough. Look what he did. He won F2 and won F3. He did everything right to get into the sport, and we're judging him on being in a piece of shite Haas car. And he's done fairly well this second half of the year compared to Magnussen. So I think he's done enough. Magnussen still takes the tick over the year, but hey, he's done all right.
Yeah, well, mate, he finished ahead of Magnussen, and Haas were nowhere all weekend. Very rarely saw them. It's interesting, talking about people like, oh yeah, but DR should go to like teams like this, and you see results like this constantly towards the end of the year. It's too hard. You can't get excited by that kind of stuff, and it's better to try for something for next year and not get it than have it a year next year where there's further disappointment when you're finishing 16th, 17th. Because, at least the McLaren has, like today, an opportunity to do something very occasionally. It doesn't seem like the Haas does towards the end of the year. Let's talk about Aston Martin. Seb Vettel in his tribute helmet, unfortunately, was not like the US Grand Prix at all, where they were on fire. They were down towards the back. Seb Vettel in 14th, Lance Stroll in 15th, Tommy T, and there was a bit of contact with Gasly, just trying to punt him out of the way.
Yeah, that was odd. I don't know why that happened. It seemed like they just didn't realise each other was there almost, or they just thought the other one would yield.
I think Gasly just thought he would yield.
Yeah,
and in there, but he locked his front left, and
then
he straightened the steering just to force him out wider anyway.
At that point, we're done.
Yeah, well, Gasly can make those decisions now that he's moving on from that organisation. So
Yes.
he doesn't care if he creates more work for the team. He's just like, nah, well.
We'll talk about him in a little bit. So, Seb Vettel, though, for this weekend for you, Mark, I mean, he's getting into the very last of his races now. There's only Brazil and then Abu Dhabi to go. 2 more of Seb Vettel in Formula One. It's a bit of a shame that he wasn't able to at least get into the points.
Well, yeah, particularly after last week as well. Like I thought maybe Aston was starting to get it together today. I mean, maybe it was similar to the Haas thing where maybe they're just not conducive to this circuit or whatever it was. But like we do have rare time with Seb now, and I don't want to see like the Aston just being crap like this.
Yeah,
I want them to at least be competitive like they were last week, or like they've. I mean, when the car's been there, Seb's been there.
Yeah.
Or for whatever reason, when the car ain't there, obviously there's not much you can do about it. So it's disappointing, given that we have a limited time left with Seb, that unfortunately we get a race like this where the Aston just isn't competitive. It's annoying.
It is annoying, and it's disappointing because, he deserves more than that. Let's hope. I mean, Abu Dhabi, who knows with Aston Martin? They're so all over the place. It's like, maybe it'll be good. Oh, who knows? Probably not.
Because I remember back to like the Renault when it was still Renault. That was like, you could tell what tracks, that's going to be super around here because it's low drag and it'll be good on the straights. But it's really hard to pick. It's just like random almost, it seems, with this Aston, that it just sometimes works at a random track.
It's interesting. We'll talk about Williams now because sort of similar things you would expect with that Mercedes power unit as well, and with a bit of cash behind them. Sidebar, they had like an epic party Williams at the US Grand Prix. They're like Robin Thicke and Shaggy and all these random, very specifically left field artists. Yeah, exactly. It was just very certain. They were like, here's the budget. What era of artists can we get? Like, exclusively between 2004 and 2014, you can have any of these people from the thing. Anyway, it's very bizarre. But Albon keeps getting 12th. This is the second week in a row that he's got 12th. Latifi constantly at the back. Like, what is the point in him even turning out anymore? It's a big shame for him to, be as much as he is a GOAT. Of the greatest of all time, properly like LeBron, to be able to get through into the point of, I've got the mute buttons, I'll hear nothing else from either of you about this Michael Jordan character. Michael B. Jordan doesn't even play basketball. But for Alex Albon, though, the blonde hair, trying to change it up, doesn't seem to be changing it up.
I think the car's useless at qualifying, though. They've they had this car when George was there last year that was really good at qualifying and crap during the race. This year it seems it's flipped because they qualified poorly and then he's climbed those places throughout the race. And I think this was tough because you were lapped so quickly as well. So you were getting hit with blue flags more often, and once you're lapped, it is really hard to kind of get back out of that kind of position. Your race is now compromised for the remainder.
Bring Claire back. She was good for that organisation. So has it been a worthwhile investment from Dalton? Probably not.
Probably too soon to say, I'd say.
Yeah, I'd say it's too soon to say because we're not that far into the whole thing. Let's be honest.
2 years now.
Yeah, but I mean that's not a long in Formula
No,
One.
it's
terms,
not.
It's
It's
actually
not.
not that.
And the points have been better than they were under Claire.
Well, that's because we've had a change of regulations and.
Well, yeah, but I also think it's a different driver. So it's interesting you're talking about like qualifying versus race pace. I would suggest George would really want to be quick in qualifying, and you said this a lot last year. It came to race pace, the car wasn't set up for it. Albon's probably the opposite. He wants to have a good crack in the race, and he knows that he can pass, and he's a decent enough driver to be able to do that. So, quali where he can do it, but, race pace is probably where he's more focused.
And you say George is the opposite. George wants to qualify and hold position. He doesn't really like the on-track stuff as much.
Well, he's just very good at spinning people around.
He doesn't have that skill set where Albon's comfortable kind of moving through, going on to alternate strategies, those kind of things. So,
does it suggest that Albon is as good as George Russell? Because, last year we were talking about Latifi as doing very well against his teammate towards the back end of the season. And we were saying that second year has done him wonders. We expected him to be much better in the third year. But is he one of these drivers that has just struggled to adapt to the new tyres, and the way that these ground effect cars work? Or is Albon just that good that he's as good as Russell?
I think Albon's adaptable is his thing. Throw any situation, any kind of car scenario. I think Latifi's needs everything to be in a row, ready to go perfectly.
Yeah.
And then he'll perform.
I think it's just a different team, and I think because Logan Sargent isn't necessarily bringing any capital with him, right? So they're getting him for
US of A.
the US of A, right? So they're bringing some team support, hopefully, but also he's not a terrible driver. Like him in F3, against Oscar, let's not forget, there were some pretty decent battles back then. So he hasn't really been in this. He's not at the same level as Oscar. He just had decent battles. So at least if he gets in next year, or if it's Jack, whatever, they're trying to shed this pay driver mentality, right? Like, it's like, okay, we don't need this anymore. We're not, overtly getting drivers in who are bringing massive support.
Well, you don't need the money you used to, right? Because of the cost caps.
Was Sargent and Oscar in the same team?
I don't remember, if I'm honest.
Like Porcher was his main rival, though,
I think
wasn't
they were maybe in Prema together in F3.
Were, yeah. Was it F3? I can't remember.
Yeah. Anyway, but it is it's worthwhile watching some highlights of Oscar in his F3 and F2 days, because we will have to get excited about Oscar Piastri, because he's going to be the only Australian on the grid next year, and he's already on this T-shirt. Mm-hmm. So is Jack, and if Jack is on in here too, that's Jack Brabham /doing.
Yeah,
What's Jack Brabham doing? Let's talk about AlphaTauri. Pierre Gasly finished in 11th, and Yuki Tsunoda got punted, as we said previously. Danny Rick got his mojo back with that, which was like, it's about bloody time for a washed driver. He's terribly washed.
I was trying to be optimistic in the group chat, and Jameson's like, washed. That's like, cool.
Terrible.
We've finally got a potential Daniel exciting drive.
No, washed. He's a terribly washed driver. I only listen to Twitter for all of my opinions, and Twitter thinks Daniel Ricciardo is washed, so they must be correct.
Fair enough, I guess.
Let's listen to Twitter for all that's good in the world.
Hang on a second. Twitter's just been bought. Twitter might be fixed, Campy. What do you reckon?
Oh, how good's Musk? Just went in here and sacked all the dickheads that work there. Love that. If I had that much money too, I'd do the same thing.
You being a Musk fan is the least shocking thing I've ever heard. Honestly.
Such an easy setup. I didn't know where it was going. I just had a feeling.
I might get Twitter now just for
That's what we need.
just so I can post things.
Follows
like
4 people
ivermectin and it doesn't
exclusively.
get banned. It'll be awesome.
Follows 4 people exclusively: Joe Rogan, Alan Jones, Andrew Bolt, and Donald Trump. I suppose, and Elon Musk would be 5.
Not Andrew Bolt. That was
Oh, you heard it here first. Ooh. Don't get on with your neighbour, mate. Pierre Gasly. What I was going to say is, it's interesting, Mark. Have you noticed how much he is now coming out and really showing his mind to this team? The frustrations are absolutely there.
He's done, mate. He's out of it, eh? It's cool. I mean, on some levels, it's cool to see. What was I listening to? Maybe the race podcast were banging on about it last week, about how he's not being professional, how he should be doing this and that. And I'm like, no, this is good.
Yeah.
Like, he's been like the company man for so long. They've been putting him in the corner for so long.
Yeah.
Finally growing his spine to a degree now that he's on the way out. He doesn't have to care about what's going on with that team anymore. So I actually like this. This makes him more compelling. And from my perspective, Campy, he needs to be out of the bin for this.
Because he's speaking his mind.
Look,
you like that.
Look, the very first podcast, the very first time we spoke about Gasly, I said I didn't rate him. And that was his debut into the big team. I said I didn't rate him. He's not going to perform. He's going to be so bad. And he was. He proved me right.
Arguably, he was fine.
He's getting beaten by Tsunoda this year, the back half of the year. It's absolutely killed him. He's just not that good. He'll get beaten by Ocon next year, guarantee it.
Whoa.
Whipping boy. Whipping boy.
Beat. Use the short one, thank you. You think Ocon is going to beat?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Do we want to wager some kind of bet on this?
Yeah, I'll put a hundo on it.
Not a hundo. I think like a payoff for the listener.
Yeah.
Well, what do you want me to do?
Maybe some kind of beanie related thing.
Yeah, maybe like not wear a beanie for, I don't know, a month of episodes or something.
Well, how about you get rid of that shit-eating grin that you come with every week?
Turn quickly.
Can't help himself. Straight back to smile or no smile. What do you want?
I feel cornered.
Let's talk about Alfa Romeo. Valtteri Bottas finishing in 10th and Zhou Guanyu finishing in 13th. Valtteri Bottas was bloody on it. Yes, the Ferrari power unit's having massive problems, it seems, at this altitude, but he was having none of that nonsense. It's had a massively bad run. Basically since Canada, I think he hasn't scored a point. And that was about 4 or 5 years ago at this point from where we are in the season. But Tommy T, he was managing to get towards the front. I mean, finishing in 10th is probably not where he should have been, but he was fighting those Ferraris for a while too.
I think the point was raised on Freya's podcast. Maybe he's just decided that he wants to drive for Audi. And he's got his mojo
realised,
back and he's like, okay, Sauber, you're taking over. Okay, this is interesting.
Saudi. Thank
sorry.
you.
here on.
That was good.
From here on.
I'll give that.
You listened
to
that
you.
far to the podcast.
But I don't know. I'm joking, obviously. I don't think that he's thinking that far into the future, but maybe this team has some upside now and he's where he might have been thinking about hanging it up or switching. He's like, okay, there's some invested interest. This team is on the way up. Maybe it's worth sticking around. I don't know. He just felt like tapped out. Like he just didn't care, did he? He zoned out. He was like, this car's not really going anywhere. It's not developing like I thought it would.
Yep.
And was just kind of going through the motions, it felt like.
Yeah, which is a shame, though, because he'd had such a bad luck of runs for the last couple of years when he was at Mercedes. And, we were saying for 2020... 2021, I can't remember which year it was, like, this is the year. Campy was like, this is the
like
year
this whole
for
podcast
Valtteri
has been
Bottas. And it was a shame because he's a great dude. He's even got his Oath gin is now on the side. Have you noticed? It's on his helmet. Yeah. It's going to be Oath, Sauber, Formula One team until Audi then take it over between when Alfa Romeo leave and that starts. But yes, Saudi, let's just get your opinions on it because we haven't yet spoken about it. Mark, what do you think about the one of many worst kept secrets this year?
I mean, yeah, to your point, one of the worst kept secrets. So, yeah, it's not surprising. But, I mean, coming back to VB just quickly, I mean, he was kind of getting beaten there for a little bit by Joe for the last 5-6 races. I was kind of wondering, like, are we seeing the end of VB here to a degree? But this random performance, it felt very random. Like he was beating the Ferraris at points. And then to have this performance, to fall back to 10th is a little bit annoying because I was kind of hoping he'd score good points. But it was just like kind of reflective to Tommy's point that maybe this dude still has some juice in him. And that's kind of what I want to see.
He started the season really well.
Yeah,
he did. It was amazing.
Really good qualifying, really good races. Yeah.
So. And he was like leading laps ahead of George. And we were all like, yes, suck it. That's the vibe.
Yeah. But first points in 10 races too, so it's a long time.
Definitely. But coming back to the Audi thing, like it is cool. Like I've always wanted them to be in the sport. For whatever reason, I just have an affinity to Audi. What this actually means, and will be our VB actually be there to enjoy the fruits of it? Probably not. I mean, 2026 is still a while away, but I'm hopeful that this is actually going to be a cool initiative for the sport. I don't know how involved they're going to be, how much control they're going to have, all that sort of stuff. Obviously, time will tell, but hopefully it's a good thing.
Well, the thing is, it now leaves McLaren and Williams as the only teams that aren't constructors teams anymore. They're independent and they get their customer teams to Mercedes. So I think it's a good thing for the sport. I think what we need now is we need Porsche to come in on the back of it too, and as well.
Who?
Porsche.
Thank you.
So I say Porsche too, Campy.
But I think
it must be nice to both be wrong.
Oh, we're in Australia. Talk properly, dick. No, it's good for the sport, but it opens up. I think we're at the stage now we can expand that grid now that Audi's on there because now we've got 7 works manufacturers. Or Aston Martin, they're not. They're in that Mercedes category as well, but they'll be looking to build their own motors too. So, now we can start to expand in the sport a bit more. We've got another constructor and get some more cars on the grid, which I think we'll all be looking forward to. The problem with that is you don't want another team just to come in and have the gaps or the speed discrepancy from the top to the bottom like we've got between the top 3 teams at the moment and the rest of them. So I think changing the rules up for 2026, taking the MGUH out of the car, I think we'll get some genuine, less of a Constantina effect across the whole field.
Yeah, there is also some chat, interestingly, talking about people coming in and out. I mentioned on Freya's podcast, but Andretti is still bloody keen on getting involved in Formula One. There is some conversation now that Dietrich is no longer with us, that AlphaTauri will be sold because why have 2 Formula One teams if you're not going to rely on a junior driver program? Yuki Tsunoda's absolutely not driving for Red Bull Racing, and Gasly's gone, and they've brought in a Mercedes junior driver to be in the Red Bull junior team. So there's potentially some openings there for Porsche to potentially buy AlphaTauri, for Andretti maybe to get involved in that as well. But I think you're right. Just the more teams, the better. At this point, I would love to see a couple more other teams on the grid, maybe 2 more teams on the grid.
Who would you want to come back or come to it for the first time? Like a Toyota?
Toyota would be great.
Like, if you think of how big that is.
They make the best cars in the world, hands down.
As a manufacturer of motor vehicles, that is the biggest I can think of. Yeah,
Yep.
It's huge.
No, I think that's a really good shout. I think Toyota and Andretti, and Porsche if they buy AlphaTauri or buy into someone else, that would probably be a good vibe. But it's good news. I think the summaries is good news. We don't know what's exactly is going to happen, as you say. The engine's going to be built in Germany though, so that's exciting. So a whole new power unit manufacturer will be interesting to see, because then Aston Martin can go, you know what, Mercedes not interested in buying your stuff anymore. I'm going to go somewhere else. Yep. And it throws a bit of jeopardy into the market.
Well, I think because you'd argue that Alpha has just been a kind of a sticker they've thrown on it. There's nothing really Alfa Romeo about it.
Yeah.
They're a title sponsor, really, if you think about it.
The car does consistently break down as much.
So I think
fits that narrative quite nicely then.
At least we're moving towards someone who is going to invest in like an Audi / Volkswagen group.
Yeah.
That's a huge, mighty car company that has something to prove in that space. They do very well in other categories. Why not now take it to the biggest category there is and the pinnacle of motorsport?
That's a very well said point.
And the other
Put that on TikTok, Zeke.
Well, the other thing too is
just also that it's just the corner and the back. I don't know if the camera can properly see your face, so it's just going to be like just this curly hair talking up and down. We'll just zoom straight in on the back of your head. That's going to great content. Put that on TikTok, Zeke.
Just that bit.
Goodness me.
The other question I've got is, when we're talking about Porsche, is the VW group going to have two manufacturers under their umbrella?
Yeah.
Or as Porsche said, or will they do that or not?
Yeah, they've said that the CEOs of each relevant company are happy to go and do what, like the parent company's like, you do what you want.
Love that.
What about a US manufacturer, just quickly? That would be interesting.
Chevy,
especially, it wouldn't be, I think it'd be Ford, surely.
Tesla. I guarantee Tesla would do better than the Formula E.
No, but Elon Musk doesn't want anything to do with motorsport. He's made that pretty clear.
I think it'd be interesting to see an American manufacturer because, A, that's buying. Do you remember when we used to care about supercars? It was because they were cars built in Australia that our dads drove.
Yes.
Like, honestly. Yeah. So if there's a manufacturer that is aligned to the US market, everyone has an F-150, everyone has a Raptor, everyone drives Fords.
You're not wrong, actually.
Like, honestly, that is the most iconic kind of manufacturer. That is a good way to get the American market on board.
Ford US, if you're listening, Tommy T is on fire today.
1%.
He's happy to be your. You could be a great team principal, I reckon.
Yeah,
because he'd be jealous of you the entire time, and that would be worth its weight in gold.
Jealous.
Here we go.
He might actually live up to his thing of actually punching someone behind the scenes. And
I just want free shit, Tommy. Tommy, get me
a Raptor.
No,
get me a Raptor.
Get me passes to the good section of the Grand Prix.
Mate, you maybe.
You do scrub up well, though, to be fair to you. I have seen you in a suit this year. I mean, it was your wedding, but you still scrub. I know you had to put in some effort for it, but you scrub up quite nicely.
You do.
Without a beanie.
I was just going to ask, did you wear a beanie at your wedding?
No, it was very disconcerting. Yeah. That's why I wasn't allowed to post any imagery from it. The censorship ban and immediate blackout.
Yeah, it was.
I wear suits more often than
Than you do. It is not wear suits.
I'm the same as you, though.
It's either 3 days a week at the moment.
It's either dressed up or
not
uncomfortable.
Suits, but a jacket. That's a suit for me.
A blazer.
Jeez, this podcast really took a turn. Let's talk about Alpine. Fernando Alonso, firstly, his P7 got restored for the US Grand Prix, which was the correct decision.
Good.
So well done. What do you mean, what?
No, I'm sticking with my...
This is another thing Fran pointed out that you were wrong about.
Yeah, well, Fran can shut up.
The short one.
Campy's Hot 10.
The only short one I've got is this.
No, look, I feel sorry for Haas. The way they've been treated this year for those black and orange flags. I know the sequence of the events and how they played out, and they protested too late and stuff. It didn't meet the right criteria, but hey, we want consistency when it comes across the sport. And if Haas are getting shit canned 3 or 4 times this year for it, and Alpine are not, well then...
I think you'd argue, though, doing it after the race is finished when it's...
Well, they should have done it during the race.
Well, that's right.
100%.
And we've got shit stewards and shit race directors. Yeah. Just like we had last year. Inconsistency. I like Michael Massey. He wasn't that shit except for that last race. But I'm only being nice because we want him on the podcast. But I'll tell you what, like, just get it right. But that's where I stand on it.
Just get it right is very easy retroactively. I think the issue was doing it after the race is pointless because it's no longer a safety issue because the car's parked in a container. Who cares?
Yeah, no, I think it's the right decision that they changed it. Anyway, he was driving on 5 cylinders for a couple of laps, and then was like, his engine went bye.
Yeah.
Which was the radio call. What a season, man! What a season. Fernando going full Fernando about that kind of stuff.
He changed teams without telling his boss, so he's got a role to play in that season too.
Yeah, but I mean, that's, again, we like that. We like Gasly calling out AlphaTauri. We like Fernando going, guys, if you want me to actually, like, us to finish ahead of McLaren, you have to have some reliability here. And Alpine just is struggling with that. As much as McLaren's not doing well in a straight line, at least it's holding itself together internally.
Yeah.
But for Ocon finishing in 8th, Fernando was schooling Ocon.
As always.
Yeah. So it's no real surprise that ended up happening. But yeah, Alpine as a whole. What do we think about the Alpine and McLaren battle? There's only 2 races to go. They still could, either one of them could get up on top of each other. Mark, who do you reckon's going to get it?
Well, I mean, Alpine should, but it's just a reliability issue at this point. Like, they're clearly the better car. They're clearly, again, not to offend the DR listeners, but they clearly got the better package in terms of 2 drivers at the moment. They should be the team that finishes ahead of McLaren, but for whatever reason, this is still a competition. So maybe it's just because of the reliability issues.
They don't have the drivers. They've got the car.
Well, I mean, Fernando. What are you talking about?
Fernando.
Wow.
Well, I mean,
Why don't you like Fernando? James and I have always liked Fernando.
Unbelievable. When he was announced to come back to the sport, Tommy T and I were like,
so
excellent.
excited.
Former drivers who are past their prime coming back, beating everyone else. You were like,
poo-pooed
nah, only young, exclusively young drivers.
Anyway, moving on. You two are trying to rewrite history, just like the rest of the... Here we go. I'm not going there.
I think, to be honest, both those...
Look at Zeke's done.
The great thing is he also doesn't have headphones, so he can't have the added value of this.
I think Alpine and McLaren are both disappointing. Both those teams are just fundamentally disappointing this year.
And Alpine 153 points, McLaren 146, Mercedes, who are in 3rd, 447.
That's what I mean.
Like, but then again, Alfa Romeo 53. So it's like, it's just ridiculous spread. Anyway, it's a bit interesting. Maybe, let's be honest, if there's no issues for that Alpine for the next 2 races, they should be 4th. They should.
They should. And then look, this has probably been the low-key disappointment of this season, is the fact that midfield has been kind of bad this year. Like, obviously Max and Red Bull have dominated, but like, what made last season appealing apart from Lewis and Max was the fact that there was 4, 5, 6 legitimately good cars out there. Whereas now, to your point, you just rough the scores. It's kind of like McLaren or Alpine is one of them is going to finish 4th, one of them is going to finish 5th because the rest are just terrible. So, but to your point, Alpine should finish 4th, but will they? I don't. There's no reason to trust this organisation. So who knows?
McLaren will suck in the Middle East, whatever the last race is, because they just got no.
Yas Marina.
Yeah, Yas Queen Marina. How dare you forget that?
They got no straight line
Penalty.
speed. Yeah. So it'll be one of those Monza type races where they can hang on if they're in a train, but if they're in front of that train, they'll just get eaten up. And they'll look at, I suppose, Brazil will be the equaliser between the two of them, but. I think Alpine goes into the last 2 races with a better package for both of them, and they should.
Which is why I thought today 7th was the win almost for that out of those 2 teams. 7th is the best on offer because you're nowhere near points, speed. Like, the best you can do it each week, unless something goes wrong, is 7th. So for Daniel to get to there and beat the other ones was exactly
Let's
what
talk
I wanted.
about Daniel. 7th for him, Lando Norris in 9th. Really good strategy for a change for McLaren.
Shocked.
Massively shocked.
Love that.
Quite honestly. But it's good. He put the soft tyre on and it was the right call and he actually had some grip. And when he has grip, he has confidence. And when he has confidence, funnily enough, he can start pulling out some results. So
I think it says about his struggles this year too with the tyres. He's just found the tyres so inconsistent all year. So we go to a track like Mexico where the degradation is minimal and the track's a really nice track to drive, hence why he's done so well this weekend, because the tyres did what he wanted them to do.
Well, I think George made the point, and I think he was right. They went a step harder than they probably should have. They were a bit too conservative.
Yeah, well, they're always too conservative.
but to your point, like, Daniel set up the race to get on the softs because of what he did on the mediums first. The fact that he went, 45, 46 laps or whatever it was, like that enabled him to get onto the softs, which obviously enabled him to get up into that 7th position. So
And had the choice.
Yeah, exactly. So like that early stint, or it's not even an early stint because he went bloody 3/4 of the race almost on that one tyre. Like that's why he got into this position. So props to DR for doing this. It feels like a win.
Yeah.
It feels like after the race, I kind of felt like Monza all over again. Like that's how I felt after watching this thing. Yeah. And if you squint hard enough, like a 7 kind of looks like a 1. If you just tilt it a little bit, it kind of looks like a 1 depending on the font you use. So this feels like a W.
That's it. That's the end of the podcast. Thanks so much for listening, Danny Rick 1.
We're starting to sound a bit like Perez a few years ago.
I was going to
this is a win for us.
Memory. This exact circuit.
Great result for Danny Rick, and I bloody love you, mate, but fuck, it ain't a win.
Also, charge less for your helmets in Australian.
You owe me a beer,
dues.
mate.
So that was good. Good that Lando let him go. It's nice that they both said it, came out and said, we spoke about this beforehand. There was no, that was just the D. And so for DR to be in that position and Lando go, yep, no worries, off you go. And
Team points.
Lando had that. Although at that safety car potential when it came up, I was like, if Nando was parked this in a bad spot, but he didn't.
Yeah,
prop to the marshals. They wheeled that thing off super fast.
Perfect use of the VSC. That is exactly what it should be for.
Yeah.
If it's anything more than that, full safety car, please, because we sit in VSC for however long, and we go in this limbo of like Delta.
Yeah. And then they put a
safety car out 3 laps later. Useless.
Absolutely
Do a full one unless it's something like this where there's a clear objective, there's no debris to get rid of. Spot on.
Yep. It's great for DR. Driver of the day as well. He needs that after Austin because that was woeful for him.
Made some great moves too.
Yeah. It's DR of old. Like seriously, getting some confidence.
We know the car had pace on the softs, on the reds, but like even some of those straights that like you can still see the deficiency in that car and how shit it is on a straight. He's struggling to pass Bottas at times, It was like, this is frustrating along the straight with DRS. So what was good for me was that he still got that racecraft and he can still make those moves in a car that, yes, it's shit on, but he makes up for it everywhere else because of his drivability of the car on this track this weekend. I mean, Austin was woeful. His race pace was like 1.2 seconds slower than what Lando's was, and as a driver, where do you try and find that? That to me says there's something wrong with the car fundamentally.
Well, we know there is.
Yeah,
for him, and he said that since race 1 last year.
Yep.
He's felt uncomfortable in the car. He points it somewhere and it doesn't go where he's pointing it. Like that's a pretty bad thing when you're a Formula 1 driver.
You can do something over one lap, but over a race distance against trying to keep the tyres in the optimum realms and stuff. Yeah.
But that shows, like you were saying last week, in terms of what
optimum realms.
Yeah.
Is amazing. Just spot on. I love
Optimum operating.
realms.
No
is
realms.
better.
Yeah.
Stick with it.
You were going for range, weren't you?
So good.
You were going for range, but you went with realms in the end. I prefer
There's
realms.
Way
DC,
better.
there's Marvel, and then there's Campy's realm.
That's scary.
I think the listeners know that I can't talk at the best of times.
No, that's what I'm saying. I was like, you stumbled into something brilliant. I like it.
It's like driving into the summer. Saw that in a comment in Discord this morning. I
So
had a giggle.
good. The weird little lexicon we've created within Lakeside.
And you've put it somewhere. Is it in these notes?
Yeah, I keep putting it at the very, very bottom, I think. There's a lot.
Braking at ghosts. Smell of an oily rag. But hey, that's motorsport. 2 doesn't go into 3. On the shag.
On the shag. What's your favourite, Mark?
But hey, it's motorsport. I was going to bring that up if you didn't. So
Every time.
that's my favourite one.
Oh, that's great. I didn't realise that was down there on this note. Outstanding content.
Contracts aren't worth the money they're written on. Just spot on.
I've done some of those on purpose.
I love it. Yeah,
You have.
Very
Like the
cognizant
car
now.
on the grid on the car.
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
done a
Well,
few
you
of
did the
those.
first time you messed it up, and then you've lent into it,
good.
Campy, and
Big fan of it,
Campy
Campy.
sayings. Ferrari, who?
Yeah.
Who?
They were shit.
Yeah.
They were considering what we've seen all year, we know they're slower than the Red Bulls. Well, their pace this weekend was disgusting. They were like a full minute 10 behind, the Mercedes, which when you compare last week to this week, that is mind-boggling to lose that much. I don't know if it's just the engine or it's just a specific weekend, but they were shit.
Yeah. Charles said in the pen afterwards, we weren't as fast as the cars in front of us, but we were pretty fast compared to the cars behind us. So it was just Carlos and I, like,
Honestly, yeah.
that's it. Just doing nothing else. That Ferrari Enzo, right, Zeke? Yep. Let's get going. Mercedes, Hamilton finishing in second, and Mercedes getting some pace about themselves now. Russell in fourth. Russell has inherited the complaining button about tyres from Lewis Hamilton because he was on the radio constantly whinging about his tyres.
He's English. That's what they're known for.
Just
whinging bombs.
Just frustrating. Just get on with it, mate. Like, you can't pit. They kept saying, like, trust in the team and the data that they've got. But anyway, Lewis Hamilton. Now, he is a Brazilian citizen now. I think he was granted this year honorary citizenship with Brazil because he's a massive following there for the many, many years that he's raced there, and he loves that country. So this is actually technically going to a home race for him next weekend. And Mercedes are getting some pace about them. Do you think, lads, generally, that Mercedes is going to have enough pace and Hamilton's going to have a home crowd advantage to get him, which we all know is worth 5 or 6 seconds a lap? Factually proven, probably, to actually challenge Max and Sergio.
I want to say yes, but I can't. There's no way we can say yes. Like, objectively, they've been getting better, and every part of me as a Lewis fan wants to say yes, he can win this race. I want him to win a race this year, but if we're being logical about it, there's no reason for us to think that they're actually going to win. Oh, if they have a real chance at this, maybe he'll prove us wrong. Maybe it's the whole Brazilian aspect will add an extra 10th or 2. But at the moment, we can't put that in the bank.
I feel like this was the race to do it. This was like the last of the last 3. This was the race where they were going to have the most advantage. Based on setup, based on the car, I feel like this was their chance to do it, and they didn't get it done.
I think he can beat Checo, but beating Max in that Red Bull, especially around, like, that Red Bull, Brazil is made for that Red Bull. So that car this year, so I can't see him winning there. Gas Marino. No. I'd like to him to. I'm with Mark. He's had
I'd love to see him get a win.
The way that Mercedes...
Can't believe we're saying that as a
think
podcast.
Think about where we were at with Mercedes at the start of the year.
Oh, yeah.
Clearly, fourth, McLaren was probably better than the first, not after race 1, but after 5 races, McLaren were clearly the third best car. By 4 races before the mid-season break, we were like, this took 10 races. What an organisation to come back to where they are. They had a really solid purple patch where I think they got, 6 or 7 podiums on the straight, and some bad luck happened. But for me, I think Hamilton behind that wheel is they're working hard, and that organisation's great. I think they'll be back better than Ferrari next year, and hopefully it'll be a Red Bull v Mercedes.
They're potentially better than Ferrari this year when you look at it.
487 to 447.
Yeah.
That's
40
the
points. It's not much. After
With 2
last
races
night
to go.
too.
Yeah.
I mean, and Ferrari have had some issues this year when it comes to reliability too.
I doubt that is going to go well in Brazil for that Ferrari engine.
Well, it's a high.
It's not as high as this, but it's still high.
Yeah, so they could struggle.
And the heat and all those kind of factors, the Ferrari did not like it, did it?
No,
Interesting.
We just know Mercedes as a unit has processes in place. It knows how to win. I think Toto is pushing that car towards the front of the grid. Probably not this year. Certainly next year. I think we'd talk about like Red Bull level of fast over the Ferrari level of fast because they'll be working out what Red Bull's doing. They've got an epic team, an epic factory back in the UK to do it. So I think, this has obviously been a year where they can't win now because Red Bull has dominated. But for next year, it's good. And we want that, right? We don't want Max to run away with 4 on the trot before we get into 2026 regulations. Home races, Sergio Perez, talk about Red Bull, of course, Max Verstappen won. But every time Checo went around the circuit, wherever the Mexican fans would stand up and cheer him on, it was so good to see. As you said earlier on, better than the Dutch Grand Prix and the Dutch fans.
Yeah, awesome. I think Checo to get 3rd on the podium's good. I think he probably should have got 2nd with the car that's underneath him, but geez, Hamilton's good behind that wheel. But yeah, the crowd was awesome this weekend. Even afterwards in that stadium section.
Yes.
Cracking, absolutely cracking.
You a Martin Garrix fan?
Who? Bloody hell, Tommy. I know who he is. He's a DJ, right?
Correct. Spot on.
Oh,
You do get pop culture, see?
Yeah, you know the people you are.
I hate DJs.
Add it to the list of
Saw
people.
David Guetta once though. Did some fist pumping.
Jeez. That's a visual.
On the Gold Coast. I was muzzing off. I was awesome. Footy shorts on, legs out.
I was just about to say. I've
Just
got
like
this image of you
picture
now.
over Christmas holidays.
Wow. That is a visual.
Just shorts on and that bag thing around you. You know, the thing they wear.
Bum bag.
I'm sorry for your loss, listener.
Heavily
Visualizing
drugs
that.
in it.
Is that what they're for?
What else are they for? What else are they carrying
Keeping
around?
your devices safe and secure
please.
and waterproof. Yeah. Good, great, cool. Daddy Checo was there. He smiled a lot and held a Mexican flag. It's the content we were wanted all weekend. At least he got a podium for Checo. All right, let's now move to still. I mean, you're just standing there in silence with no headphones on, but it's still bloody great. It's still really good a lot. Mexican Grand Prix, all right, well, it's working this time. So apologies. I am going to read out some of the names from the US Grand Prix. Just the whole thing broke. And it just would not refresh anything, and I couldn't see who was involved. So 160 people. Okay, first up, do I get merch if I win this? Jess Q, yes, you do.
Love that.
All signs point to Carlos. Louise B. Gasly is better than Herbert. Byron H. Yeah, I guess so. Checo Slovakia. But yeah, Kieran W. Oh hey, I'm Riccardi Barbie. Steen N. Very good. Campy's tinfoil sombrero.
That's a good addition.
Day of the DR. LFG.
Yeah.
Kelly W. Alonso, which is very good from you, Nathan D. Tim Cook wondering what he's doing here. Michael S. Rebel Catering. Matt J. Horsey McCaw says better horsepower than McLaren. Haley H. Make the LSD intro music into mariachi style. Nicholas H. We didn't have time.
Zeke.
Zeke, what else are you doing with the other stuff that you do with your life? Got my ironing done. Paul W. Horsey McCaw, Kate P. And can we still call it the Austin... can we still call Austin the US GP, Sandy?
Very good, Sam.
With the 4 million other US races. Who knows? Top 3 in the race, that's not correct because I haven't
Texas
updated it.
is the country.
I get it. Yep.
There should be the Texas GP, then, eh?
Yeah, the
The
Texan Grand Prix for
Republic
next
of-
year. Yeah, the best country in the world, according to this podcast.
Maybe they'll give you, like, they'll donate you citizenship. Like
donate you
Hamilton.
citizenship.
Like they did to
Lewis.
Hamilton. I forgot my words. But they did to
Ted Cruz is my boy. You could make that happen.
It's Campy's beer.
There is only one place where that guy belongs. Well, look, that's
Shit
it.
Texans say it's the best.
Is that like an
Or don't say it.
Instagram?
Oh, it's the best.
Okay,
You don't
great.
have Instagram though. How do you engage
YouTube.
with that?
Shit Texans don't say. It's awesome.
Okay, great. Well, that's it for this episode. A massive thank you to Mark Kay for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
It's been a pleasure having you on. Lads, thank you. Thank you, listener, watcher. Again, do what you want. Don't care. Subscribe, don't subscribe. Review, don't review. Whatever.
I want James to have his wet dream. Go subscribe to YouTube, please.
It's only a couple more.
No, that's it.
Do it.
That's it for this
what she
episode.
said.
Freya will be back on Friday again. We're also previewing the Brazilian Grand Prix next week ahead of the Brazilian Grand Prix. It's going to be good. Do what you want. Bye.
What a note to end on. Put that on TikTok, Zeke.